licensing can be a complicated beast, something that's very apparent when looking at reactions to Capcom's recently announced Capcom Home Arcade. The announcement for the code-made manufactured plug-and-play arcade system earlier this week said that, in the interest of offering the most authentic arcade emulation possible, the Capcom Home Arcade is powered by an emulator called FB-Alpha. Now, in a series of comments spouted by Capcom developers that have contributed to the open-source emulator, and other members of the emulation community are voicing concerns over the deal, with some arguing that FB-Alpha cannot be licensed for commercial use. Barry Harris, one of the leading devs behind FB-Alpha, says that FB-Alpha has been licensed for the Capcom Home Arcade, but some are arguing that he does not have the authority to do so due to FB-Alpha's development history. FB-Alpha is an open-source emulator and distributed under a license that specifically notes you may not sell, lease, and or otherwise seek to gain monetary profit from FB-Alpha, as outlined later on in that same document. FB-Alpha was based on the code of several preceding emulation projects, including emulators like MAME and Final Burn, which each come with their own licensing terms. The FB-Alpha license specifically notes that, due to the use of MAME code in FB-Alpha, FB-Alpha is also subject to the terms of the name license. A similar disclaimer for Final Burn is found further down on the page. Video Game Deep Kids is a weekly newsletter from video game industry watcher Simon Carlos, BD, Gamasutra Code Runner, rounding up the best long-read standout articles videos about games every weekend. This week's highlights include a piece on Chinese romance games for women, a look at a multitude of new titles from Crackdown 3 through Metro Exodus Anthem, and the weird history that led to the Wu-Tang fighting game, among many others. A busy week in games, then the delayed from holiday 2018, Rush, opposed Red Dead Redemption 2 hangover, seems to be finally hitting, and that's without Nintendo dropping surprise Tetris Battle Royale games on us. But then there's the active layoffs lurking in the background, like Dark Cloud. Sigh, what a week. Until next time. Simon, curator. The Impossible Architecture of Video Games, Yuan Wilson Eurogamer article. Piranesi is most famous for his imaginary prisons, unleashed from history. The engines depict a vast subterranean network of walkways, bridges, arches and stairs. This were the Gothic nightmares open-adult romantics would dream up centuries later, whilst the Timikos Fumito has acknowledged Piranesi as an influence. The architect's visions extend further. Tetris 99 is the opposite of Tetris Effect, and it's amazing. Master the Verge article. One of the biggest surprises during last night's Nintendo Direct live stream was the reveal and launch of Tetris 99. The game, which is a free download for Nintendo Switch Online subscribers, is perhaps the least likely take on the Battle Royale formula that's most closely associated with Fortnite. The goal is simple. 99 people are playing Tetris simultaneously, and the last surviving player wins. It's ridiculous and hectic, and it's also kind of amazing. Simon, as note, the game, from Tetris the Grandmaster Death's Record, has pretty complex mechanics to impressive conviction at Anthem trailer from Neil Blomkamp, of Studio YouTube video. From Neil Blomkamp, District 9 director, of Studios owned by BioWare, comes a live-action trailer of survival, set in the world of Anthem, decades before the events of the game. Simon, as note, man, all of Blomkamp's studio output has been just spectacular. From an art direction tech point of view, hope he can scale up to full TV shows, a movies again soon. The fallout of Activision Blizzard's massive layoffs has a Schreier cut a cool article. Over the past week, I have talked to around 20 people who were laid off, are close to those being laid off, as well as others with knowledge as to what's happening at Activision Blizzard. If there's a consensus, it's rage. Rage at context comments at the way Activision executives seemingly view their employees as numbers on a spreadsheet, at the carelessness in which this layoff was handled, into the breach with Justin Mudd, Splunky Show Eclipsing podcast. Justin Mudd of Subset Games joins us to discuss the design of his excellent C5 strategy game Into the Breach, from his Splunky-inspired high-low-level design, to how they cracked his time-driven gameplay, to why throwing away 80% of their work worked. The State of BioWare, Alex Kane Polygon article, is also unsurprising for Anthem setting the fruit of those early dealing meetings centers around godlike machinery that reshapes the game world, even as it throws that environment further into chaos. This is a period of change for BioWare. Simon, best note, there are early impressions from games bound from Kotaku that seem a little mixed, but we'll see that. Sony's Sean Layden wants fewer, bigger PlayStation games, Ian shared in that article. Rain. Sony skipping E3 2019, so the trade show became a trade show without a lot of trade activity. The world has changed, but E3 has not necessarily changed with it. And with our decision to do fewer games, bigger games, over longer periods of time, we got to a point where June of 2019 was not a time for us to have anything to say. The Secret History of Wu-Tang Clan's bizarre hip-hop fighting game, Stephen T. Wright Variety article, more broadly construed, the story of Three Kill, or Wu-Tang, Shaolin style, the bizarre, hip-hop-flavored kung fu fighting game that it eventually became, is a chronicle of the unique state of the gaming industry in the late 90s, and how its structural shortcomings and creative excesses led to perhaps the most notorious unreleased game in the history of the industry. Road to the Eve, POLYA of CSMOSS, Joe Couture Gamasutra article. Gamasutra sat down with Stephen Hall, audio director, Rick Lickle, animator rigger, and Rhys Alderson, art director, for the Excellence in Audio nominee Mosto. Learn about the thoughts that went into making the player wish to help Moss, tiny protagonist, how sound deepens that connection, and how the error can make the player truly feel like a part of the journey. Simon, just note, just read off either Road to the Eve pieces from Joel. If you did not, lots of amazing indie games, most recently After Hours, which is a fascinating sounding student game. United States iPhone users spent, on average, $79 on X last year, up 36% from 2017. Sarah Perez TechCrunch article. As usual, mobile gaming continued to play a large role in iPhone spending. In 2018, gaming accounted for nearly 56% of the average consumer spend, $44 out of the total $79 spent per iPhone. But what's more interesting is how the non-gaming categories fared this past year. My take on Supercell's 2018 and things I look forward to this year. ILKK on a Supercell article. Which of our first 4 games, Heyday, Clash of Clans, Boom Beach and Clash Royale, have not all grossed more than $1 billion in lifetime sales? What is even more amazing is that the 2 Clash games have reached a combined $10 billion. Simon, just note, well, Supercell still seems to have great tech culture, and they are carbon offsetting everything related to their firm, including the cost of gamers charging their phones. What I think civilization-wise, gather in storm, Alchemir rock paper shotgun article. Gamasutra keeps sending me terror to all nations. The Aztecs are increasingly angrily demanding that I give them an Edgar Allan Poe novel. A volcano just erupted over Dutch Disneyland. The World Congress is trying to stop climate change by running a game show. I used to fret that civilization-wise was not memorable. With that the installment expansion. Far better or worse. It's unforgettable. Simon, just note, also out this week and well worth reading about Far Cry. Mood on.